Well, hello again. Our final session of the day features student innovators. We've brought together some of BC's most successful student innovators who will share their experiences of invention and entrepreneurship. Our moderator for this panel is the Honorable Andrew Wilkinson, BC Minister of Advanced Education. Andrew Wilkinson was appointed Minister of Advanced Education on December 18th, 2014. He served as Minister of Technology, Innovation and Citizen Services from June 23rd after being elected MLA for Vancouver-Quilchena in the 2013 general election. Prior to being elected MLA, Minister Wilkinson worked as a lawyer and a licensed physician in Vancouver.
Thanks. I'll just go over here. All as well?
All right, and our student panelists today are Nick Birch, a fourth-year engineering student at the University of Victoria and co-founder of IOTA Technologies. Sebastian Klein, an integrated engineering student at UBC and team manager for the UBC Orbit Satellite Design Team. Jamie Hawkins, a fourth year of the Bachelor of Mechanical Engineering at BCIT. Jamie is the inventor of the Auto Garden. Nicole Ticha, a senior at York House School and the owner and chief scientific officer of One World Diagnostics Inc. Angela Wang, a student at West Point Grey Academy and co-founder of Culitech. And finally, Raymond Wang, an entrepreneur and nonprofit leader who has been named one of Canada's top 20 under 20. Take it away, Minister.
Okay, now we just have to get you folks identified here. So who had lunch? Was it good? Okay, good. That's the happiness criterion. Who's been down to the 4D portal already? So the ones who aren't here are the ones lined up downstairs. Okay, lots of nodding of heads. So we'll go through these folks one at a time. So I'm going to walk behind them. You tell me if you know them, because then we'll know about your applause later, whether you're biased. So who knows this guy? And this gentleman? Oh, this guy. Okay, better. Okay, how are we doing? This fine young woman. Oh, small fan club. Angela. Okay, and our last entrepreneur. Okay, so now we've established the baseline for bias in the applause. So we're going to hand it over to these guys. So what we have here is high school students and university students who've done interesting stuff in the tech space. Some of them, like our young man from New Brunswick, have immediately gone into engineering and kind of followed the path and know where they're going. And you can see he's already looking for financing by the way he dresses. Others are still in student mode, and then are those who are not ready for presentation but are still working on their IP. They are lying on the pillows here in the front. So this is what you look like when you're looking for financing. This is what you look like when you're creative. Okay, so who's feeling creative out in the audience? And who's looking for financing? No, they got their free lunch, so they're ready to go home. Okay, so we're going to kick this off. We're going to hear from each of our 6 entrepreneurs in the making as to what their project is and how they got where they're going, but we're going to start with their name and the institution they're studying in, and maybe hometown. Here we go.
Sure. My name's Nick Birch. I'm a fourth-year electrical engineering student at the University of Victoria. Grew up in Comox Valley, Up Island, but been living in Victoria for about the last 5 years. And last summer, myself and my good friend Tyler Rhodes, who's in the front row there, we developed a prototype tree planting robot over the space of about 3 months as part of a entrepreneurial co-op work term. And from that, we've founded a company, just the 2 of us, called IOTA Technologies, and we're hoping to continue developing robotic systems for use in the forestry sector.
So I'm Sebastian Klein. I'm from UBC, and I'm originally from Moncton, New Brunswick. I'm with UBC Orbit, a student design team, and I'm actually the team manager. And we're currently building a constellation of 6 satellites to identify forest fire and assist the Forestry Service in detecting prime locations for forestry development.
Hello all, my name is Jamie Hawkins. I go to the British Columbia Institute of Technology. And as part of my second year capstone project, I developed a fully like integrated and automated home hydroponic garden that can grow a family's produce year-round.
Now, we have to pause there because these guys are going to share that microphone. And you have to notice how BCIT is very dedicated to finding these entrepreneurial types and promoting them. So they have their logo being displayed to you on the can. They have a photographer in the front row. And all of you are being encouraged to apply to BCIT immediately after you leave the room. Okay, here we go.
All right, hello, my name is Nicole Ticha, and I am a grade 12 student at Your Coast School, just finishing up right now. I got involved in science with biotech research in grade 10. I have created a point-of-care diagnostic tool for early diagnosis of HIV, primarily in low-resource areas, so sub-Saharan Africa and India. And I've worked on this project, first of all, more as a science fair research project, and then later on as a business trying to create the network and really get other people involved in this research as well.
My name is Angela Wang. I am a grade 11 student at West Point Grey Academy. Along with my fellow student, Madeline Liu, I'm one of the co-founders of ColorTech. ColorTech invents smart cutlery, forks, spoons, and chops that can detect allergens, nutritions, and toxins through infrared spectroscopy.
Hi everyone, I'm Raymond. I go to school at St. George's. I'm in my grade 12th year. And so what I did was recently, throughout my high school career, I've done a variety of things from renewable energy, biomechanics. So most recently, I worked on developing a system that improves airflow in aircraft cabins, so like your 737, Airbus A320, and we're basically able to come up with a device that costs around $1,000, but is able to provide each passenger with about a 55-time reduction in pathogen inhalation.
So let's just get some kind of general questions going. So no particular order. You can jump in. Whoever's got the microphone has to answer the question, and then they can pass it on to the person of their choice. So who were the influences in your life? Was it teachers, parents, television, peers, the web? What was the influence in your life that made you do what you want to do?
Personally, big influence from my father. Growing up, he always showed me how to make things and create, and woodworking, building stuff in my hands, whether it was tree forts or working on my bicycle. He ended up building our family home, and sort of did it self-taught from books he took out of the library about electrical wiring and plumbing. And yeah, I think I just kind of adopted that sort of strategy about just creating and learning as you go, and kind of using your hands to develop stuff. So
Great. Cool.
Yeah, on my end, I guess I'm not far enough removed from school yet to really forget about the influence of my teachers. So for example, in grade 8, I had a really fantastic science teacher who really pushed me to go to my very first science fair. And although they never really provided a lot of directed study in the exact field I was working in, they were able to really lay the foundation in terms of how do you really conduct an experiment? What are the sort of people you need to reach out to? How do you get involved in a lab? And that was very, very instrumental in sort of building me up as a researcher from the ground up, I guess.
I would say same answer for these two, but also another big one would be the internet. I mean, let's be realistic. Nowadays, everyone uses it. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. And from there, you just see the stories. I mean, you all go on websites. You all have seen someone built this. Oh, this is a cool new technology. You hear about things nowadays that you've never heard about before, and it really is inspiring. I'm hoping that after this panel, some of us inspire you to do things as well.
Okay, we have to pause there. I can't resist this. When you're on the net, I'm still working on this. How do you tell the lunatics from the goofy from the substantive? You have to answer that question.
Blind luck. Aside from that, an actual honest trick, seeing if anyone else repeats it. I mean, nowadays there's enough of us online reviewing it. You can actually see what someone else does. If it's been done 2 or 3 times, then there's a good reason to look at it further. And chances are there's actually instructables on how to do it.
I'm going to take that as the video game approach to internet information. If other people are playing it must be worthwhile. Okay, next. Angela?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Where did you get your influences from? The internet, or peers, or parents, or teachers, or where'd it come from?
I guess it is a combination of family influence and, as he mentioned, internet, and also the school, as I am still a grade 11 student. However, I also traveled a lot. Ever since I was young, I traveled from China to Canada and moved back from Canada to China again. So I learned to observe a lot of things and a lot of trends that were going on at different times. And it's just that, and my father is also a businessman, so I got that kind of interest of researching and finding solutions to a lot of the problems that are going, problems that have been going on in society, or also like just technical trends that have been going on.
Well, for me, my school played a lot into it. As soon as I got into second year, I kind of realized that you have this foundation of technical knowledge and hands-on that, you know what, anything is really possible that you want to put your mind to. In terms of the inspiration, I think it's important to note that it has to come from inside you. Other people can't really make you be inspired. You have to figure it out for yourself. I dropped out of first year. I did not make it past that. And now here I am in fourth year. So anything's possible inside of yourself.
So before we go too far from that, how long were you out of school when you dropped out?
A year and a half.
What made you come back?
That kind of spark inside myself, and I was like, you know what? Engineering's something I want to do. Like, this is going to be great for me. I can have a great career, and I like building stuff, so get up and do it.
Okay, so here's the personal question he doesn't have to answer if he doesn't want to. How badly did you drop out? Like, really badly, or just a little bit badly?
I failed 3 courses first semester. Oh yeah.
So there's
it was
hope
bad.
for all of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, next.
Yeah, so I think he just touched on some of the internal factors. I think being observant, just the world can be a huge place of inspiration. All of my projects so far had something to do with trying to solve a practical problem. So for example, with my energy harvesting roof tile, essentially I was looking at the renewable energy issue and how we could potentially get the impact energy of rain and convert that into electricity. Aircraft cabin airflow, it's a huge problem. We've got just in the news, people getting, for example, a passenger with H1N1 infecting 17 other passengers.
H1N1 means what disease?
So that's a influenza.
Well done.
Thanks. And yeah, so things like that, just keeping an eye out for places where the world could really benefit from an improvement.
Good. Okay, we'll have one more question, and then we'll move it over to questions from you folks. So this one you have to answer with a straight face. When you first came up with your idea, did you think it was brilliant, scary, hopeless, or somebody else's idea that you'll get accused of stealing? Start in the middle there.
All right. To be honest, I didn't really think I had an idea at the beginning, because that's the way I think scientific research is conducted. You start off, I guess, well, I mean, for me, this is my experience. I was reading a paper on a particular type of technology, and I was interested in it partly because it was sort of the intersection between physics and biology, and that's what I want to go to in university. And I was just reading it, and I saw this unknown term used in that paper, and that was PCR. Does anyone know what PCR is? The biochemists? Yeah.
Somebody in the back there.
Yeah, and I didn't know what it was either, so I searched it up, and then I saw that PCR could be used for HIV diagnosis, specifically for early HIV diagnosis. And it's a matter of really following the threads and taking fields that really don't seem to be connected at all on the surface and trying to bring them together. It's kind of like having a sandbox and bringing together all sorts of different toys and really synthesizing what you find there. So that was my process, at least.
So you didn't even know you had an idea. No. That's great. Okay, you guys.
I think for us, sort of a mix of all those descriptors you used there, we sort of initially found out about a company who was planting tree seeds from quadcopters. They essentially had strapped a paintball gun onto a quadcopter and were shooting tree seeds into the ground. We thought, wow, this is pretty cool. And started reading a bit more about that and doing a bit more research, and found out that traditionally trees are actually planted as small seedlings rather than seeds because they have a much higher survival rate. And so we thought maybe we can make a ground-based sort of rover contraption that could go along and plant these tree seedlings into the ground rather than seeds. And initially it just seemed kind of crazy. You know, we didn't have any sort of forestry background, but we reached out to professionals in the forestry sector and had an overwhelming response, positive response, and yeah, offers of knowledge and meetings and land to test our prototype on, trees to test it with, and that.
How about money?
Initially, no money. Initially, it was all, well, I shouldn't say no money because we had help from our parents. But yeah, initially it was sort of funded out of pocket. But near the end of the project, we launched a crowdfunding campaign on Indiegogo, and yeah, had a great response from our friends and family and strangers as well. It's going to help us push the project forward. So.
Great. Okay, Angela.
Okay, so I have been interested in pathogens or diseases and allergies that have significant impact on personal well-being. And I was fascinated by how those problems have only been dealt with expensive medications and EpiPens and all of that. Like an EpiPen costs around $150 for one and has to be replaced every 2 to 3 years. So I thought surely there must be a way, a more proactive way to deal with these problems, so instead of having to cure them with expensive medications. So I thought about the idea of Colortech Smart Colory. So if you can detect allergens and toxins and also track your nutrition in your food before you inject the food would be an ideal scenario and also enhance that kind of dining experience. So as for what motivated me to take this idea forward, like allergies have real impacts in our world. Around 1 in 13 Canadians have developed a severe food allergy. In America, every 3 minutes, an American adult or child is sent into the emergency room because of a food allergy reaction. And even apart from that, contaminated food still remains to be a serious issue in developing countries and third world countries. Around 600 million people fall ill after eating contaminated food, and around 240,000 of them people die every year because of contaminated food. So I thought this product can not only empower people with their dietary choices, but also it has the potential to save lives.
So do you think it was brilliant, wacky, wonderful, hopeless, or somebody had already thought of it?
No, that was the part about this product that I think nobody have focused on, that there's something that can do with cutlery, like utensils that people have to use every day. People only, like a lot of the institutions only focus on what's, medications that people can take or minimizing the cost of medications, but they never really thought about how can we prevent that before that actually even happens and go on to affect more people.
Okay, I'll take that a combination of brilliant and wacky.
We actually had a very interesting start. So where we're a student team, we had a blatant requirement to enter into the competition that we were in for satellite design. So we needed to come up with an idea. And we really, of course, you all do this. We're all procrastinators. So it was January. It was due in February. So we were sitting around the table. What are we going to do? What do we want our satellite to do? So we decided on forest fires. Yeah, we're in BC. It seems pertinent. Why not? And then from there was, I believe, the analogy of just looking around and putting all the pieces together was used before. And again, internet. So a couple papers later, we found there was a US defense program that had published a YouTube video on the way they combined a whole bunch of cell phone cameras together. We copied that, combined it with a couple of NASA papers on the way spectral analysis can be done in vegetation, and there's an advanced camera system. And so one important characteristic that I will give you that I heard before, and that's really how we started to choose this. And for anyone who wants to start a company, I'd highly recommend it. It's by far the best approach. Look for a market and solve the problem for the market. Don't create a solution and try and find a market for it. It's much easier to already have the problem for you, because then your advertising, your customer base already exists.
This is a very pertinent point. The take home of the day probably, if you're interested in being a tech entrepreneur, remember that necessity is the mother of invention, not the other way around, or you will go broke by the time you're 25.
Yeah, so for me, I was actually, so when I came up with my idea, I was actually quite annoyed at this situation. So how many of you in here watch TV? Yeah, okay. So I was watching a certain American channel that basically every single day throughout the year, they were either talking about planes or they were talking about some kind of outbreak happening, whether that be Ebola or something else. And so I basically, after a month of this, I've had enough. So I started thinking, what can I do to get them to stop reporting about diseases and airplanes? So that's how I kind of started looking into what existing research has been doing, and we find a lot of these sort of insufficiencies in previous research and places where you can improve. And so basically taking it from there, I decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to be the one to come up with a potential solution. And from that point on, it was just getting to work on the project, and that's how it all got started.
Good, good.
Well,
Last one.
Yeah, Minister Wilkinson, I'd like to echo what you said about finding the market first, because that's what I did. I had this hobby where I loved hydroponics. I loved to like grow things in my house and in my
Was it
kitchen.
legal at the time?
Yes. Yes, it was veggies in my kitchen, if you're wondering. And then for my second year capstone project, we had to figure out a problem to solve. And I realized, hey, wait a second, there's a lot of hungry people in the world. There's a lot of people up north that are paying insane amounts for food. Maybe my hobby can help that. So then I kind of took that and figured out, how can I take this hydroponics thing and make it useful for that many people? So I thought it was very neat when I first did it, but I also thought it was insane.
Okay, so we're going to have questions from the audience. Do we have some roving mics? Okay, there's the man with the mic cube. Does everybody know what that is? So we're going to get the man with the mic cube to come down and give it to this guy in the middle who put his hand up, and from there on it'll be thrown around. The guy in the purple shirt wanted it.
So, well, I kind of put.
You got to hold it up to your chin.
Well, I kind of hold my hand up just because, why not, for some reason. As for a question for you guys, it's like, you guys make amazing stuff nowadays, and it's starting to become easier and easier and easier. I don't know, I'm just trying to say things. What should I ask? Well,
Are they going to get a day job before they pursue this dream?
well, I suppose.
Personal experience, you kind of have to, unless your parents are extremely generous. And another pointer is start a day job, and that will give you motivation for the rest of your life to never have to go back to one.
I can totally echo that. I started school like Jamie, and then kind of ended it shortly thereafter and went away for a while, and came back to school. And during the time I was away, I worked a variety of different jobs that I knew I did not want to work for the rest of my life, and that was good motivation to get back to school and start my own business, which is what I'd really like to do.
Good, good. Another question right next to the man in the purple shirt.
For those still in high school, do you plan on going to university and pursuing your project there, or do you plan on not going to university and being focused 100% on your project?
To be honest, I think that I am a complete scientist at heart, and I wish I could never stop going to school, because I think that there's almost an infinite amount of knowledge in this world, and all scientists, I think, are born curious, and all I want to do is try and pick away at everything I don't know to see what I do know. So for me, I am definitely going to go to university next year, and I plan on eventually going into the academia, so I want to pursue research as a career. And I think biotech for me and the business side is something that's more peripheral to my role as a researcher, as a scientist, and it's something that enables me to take the inventions that I come up with in the lab and translate those into a real world setting, because that's a huge problem right now in academia. There's a lot of really great inventions that are really just sort of sleeping because no one wants to take them to commercialize them. So it is very important to do business, but equally important to me is actually coming up with the inventions and the fundamental science in the first place, and then translating them to a clinical setting.
Okay, Angela.
Okay, so interestingly, when I reached the technical aspect of this smart coloring idea, I actually realized and recognized the importance of knowledge that were taught in universities and graduate schools and beyond. So for me, right now I'm grade 11, but next year I think I will definitely apply to universities.
Yeah, I'm 100% for universities. Reason why is because not only are you going to be able to build that knowledge base, whether it be in engineering, coming up with the great ideas, or business, getting the ideas to actually work and be implemented in real life, but you also get to meet new friends, right? And with that, with those friends you make, you can together work on whatever project you're doing. So you can, it's not only that one person behind it, but you also have this whole circle of amazing people who are all equally as dedicated to making change in the world. And I think it's really powerful to go to university, even if it's just for that.
So I think you had a good point earlier when we were talking about the ability of an undergraduate to benefit from all of the expensive facilities at the university. Just tell us that story again.
Yes, so one thing for any of you inventors in the room, I'm sure you've heard about IP, and a lot of you will probably drive yourself crazy.
What's IP?
Intellectual property rights. So that's your basis of your company. If you don't have IP, someone's going to steal it. It can be a patent. Nowadays, a lot of people actually aren't creating patents, but that's another story entirely. The important part is when you're a student, the gray line of where exactly do you own the property and where does your university own the property. And there's a very common trait nowadays where everyone has co-op, where if you're in your undergraduate, your university doesn't own the IP. So the sneaky game that I was explaining to the minister that I'm considering playing is stay in undergrad as long as you want, use all the labs, and save immense amount of money while getting a degree. It's 2 birds, 1 stone. So why not go to university?
So he, unlike most students who think that they're getting an education, he's actually paying, what, $5,000 a year at UBC to get access to a $15 million laboratory and steal all the ideas. Okay, further questions? Anybody? Right here in front. You'll have to bring throw the microphone up here. There you go. Good. Throw.
You've given some awesome tips for starting your own business so far, but are there any others you'd give to those kinds of people?
One that comes to mind, and this is one that I did not initially think of, but it makes a lot of sense. Choose your team and choose them carefully. A lot of people make the mistake of blurting out their idea, saying, hey, you're my roommate, let's work on that. It's a great idea. I'm not sure if you've seen the Facebook movie.
Actually, yes.
That happens a lot. I've talked to a few other people, and I'd say a good portion of the companies that I've seen that have failed, it's due to the team. And they chose, I don't want to say friends, because often they weren't even that good of friends. They were someone they got along with okay, and they seemed like a good enough fit. That's a very poor decision to make. So look for what you need. Go almost independently or with 2 people for as long as you can. Find out where you really need someone, and by that point you actually have a vision, and you'll have someone who's interested in the vision, not so much the idea.
Awesome.
Any other questions? Somebody going to put their hand up to get the microphone thrown at them?
We have time for one more question.
Okay, we'll do one more question. Who's got the last one? How about one of these guys in the front? You could ask him, why are you asleep? They're enjoying the moment
there, why are you
deeply. So this is the test, folks. You have to decide if the people chose the beanbags, A, they're comfortable, B, they're near the front and I can clearly hear, C, I can do my tech work while these people talk, or D, I can catch up on some sleep. I think we only have 4 sleepers so far, so we're doing all right.
Do we have any questions near the back? Anyone who may not get the opportunity? We have a question back here.
You're going to have to toss it right down to the guy with the toucan in the middle.
Hail Mary. Hail Mary.
You can throw it. There you go. It might take a couple throws.
Perfect.
There we go.
Okay, so I was wondering, how did you guys build up your ideas? Like, once you get the idea, did you do a prototype? Did you think about it more, do more research? How did you lay out your plans?
I would do lots of research first before you start, and then do something small scale. Do a proof of concept before you go full scale. For me, I built a little tub in my kitchen. I cut some holes in it, put an air pump in it, and hydroponics. It worked. So start small and then build up and get more and more complicated. If you're doing some design that has a lot of components and different systems, build each system, make the systems work, and then figure out how they work together. Because if you try to all make it work at once, it is going to be headache after headache.
Good advice. Any other comments on that?
Yeah, just from someone who's worked both in the lab and outside the lab with contract manufacturers, I think it's very important to define the boundary between the two. You have to play to the strengths of what professors in full research labs can do, and also the strengths of very small companies in that they're actually responsible, they have a set timeline, and they will get the milestones done. Because if you're working in the academia, the truth is that you're going to spend a lot of time and money, and it's going to be pumped in over a very long period of time, and very little is actually going to be get done. So I think it's very important that you really play to the strengths of both of those two different settings for research.
So this sounds like a bit of a cold shower that dawdling and procrastination is not unique to students. It also happens to professors and companies, never to us in politics, though. We're always on time. Anyway, I think we're pretty much done here. I'm going to welcome my colleague, Minister Amrik Verk up. He is the Minister for Technology, Innovation and Citizen Services here in the province of British Columbia. Come on up, Amrik. He is basically your host for this whole conference. So Amrik's going to wrap it up. Over to you.
Well, Andrew, thank you very much. I'm going to start. I usually have my team mix all these fancy notes up, and I usually ignore them. Me and Andrew both do that. So I'm going to reverse engineer this. Think fast forward what the future is going to look like 5, 10, or 15 years ago. And if we went back, you know, in the 60s and the 70s, we had these science fiction novels and shows and programs, and we always thought, you know, that's not going to happen. That's just way out there. I think what we realize now, there's incredible potential what the future is going to look like. So for you, young people, the next generation that's going to replace myself and Andrew, what's 9, 10, or 15 years look like? What's 20 years look like? What's 30 years down the look like? And reverse engineer it. Begin with the end in mind. So in my previous life, I used to be a police officer for a quarter century, and I used to be a sniper on hostage rescue teams. My end in mind was to do a successful rescue. Andrew, my brother here, was a physician. His was to cure someone, and he became a lawyer after that. I guess his goal was to litigate as long as possible after that. But let's begin with the end in mind. We have a world where clean tech from British Columbia has the potential to make the world cleaner. We have a potential where life sciences, starting right here, has a potential to make the world healthier. We have, from the ICT world, to develop that new wearable that's going to do a whole host of things. We have a potential from the gaming world, the new entertainment. We never would have thought what entertainment looks like now, but what's it going to look like? So that's the world that's going to look like when you're older. Now rewind that back to now. Where does your passion lie in those areas? You may want to clean the world. You may want to make the world healthier and greener and leaner and more efficient and more effective. Your interest may be in the gaming area. Your interest might be in communications. It may be in networking. So in a tech company, it's all those skills that are required. It's not pure science. So reverse engineer that, and where do you see your place in the future? And start thinking about that today. So the career, the highlight that we were able to provide to myself and Andrew and all our colleagues is to expose you to as much as possible. To expose you to all those technologies out there, some of which I haven't even seen till today, and see what's happening in British Columbia. To expose you to coding today, which is going to be as necessary as is English or French or any other language that you may speak today. Find your fit, find your passion. Our goal, myself and Andrews and all our colleagues, is to look out after you. We've got all those techies downstairs. They're in companies right now. They got to have revenue streams. They're making money. They're doing really well. But you are that next generation, and our singular goal here is to prepare you for that future. Look around the corner. To the parents, the educators in the room, we're very grateful that you came and brought your classes. Without you, this would not be possible. Ladies and gentlemen, the future is extremely bright in this province. technology and science-related jobs are going to be approximately 10%, 7 to 10% of all future jobs. That's 70 to 80,000 future jobs. So let not anybody in your space kid you that that there's no jobs in British Columbia. If you Google Tech Jobs BC right now, there's hundreds of openings this afternoon. The opportunities abound. You just need to seek them out. So you are our future. You are our hope. You're the ones that are going to be signing our pension checks. We've got to be really nice to you as well. But ladies and gentlemen, your interest, your passion is what's going to drive this province. You are going to be the leaders of the future, and the fact that you're here with us at the Tech Conference, and you are going to be the future of BC Tech. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for being here, and for paying attention, and everything else you're doing.
Let's have a big hand. Let's have a big hand for these 6 students on the front bench here. And the message for students at tech events is be nice to everybody around you because they may be your employer, including these folks. Thanks for coming.
All right. Thank you. Way to go. Thanks again, Minister Verk and Minister Wilkinson, and our panel of students. This concludes our career showcase. We hope today's session got you thinking about your career path or inspired you to look deeper into a tech field you're passionate about. Thank you for coming out today and participating. A big round of applause to the teachers and chaperones who came today. Please drop your badges in the silver bowls outside the door so we can recycle them. For post-secondary students, we invite you to attend TechFest by Tech Vibes here in front of this room starting at 6 p.m. In the meantime, you are welcome to explore the entire technology showcase and trade show floor now, or you can watch the presentations on the main stage downstairs. High school students, please find your teachers and chaperones. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you all next year. Hey.